Welcome to Critical Role Demystified. I'm Mike Christensen, and this is the series where we break down the lessons we can learn as GMs and as players from episodes of Critical Role. Today we're tackling episode 31, Gunpowder Plot. As a reminder, when my Patreon reaches 1,000 members, my Critical Role Demystified series will go weekly. The link for my Patreon is in the description below. A quick note, some folks have asked about the character levels of Vox Machina. After the last session, Scanlan and Percy and I believe Vax all hit level 12, and they were the last to get to that level, so now, apart from Pike, the party is all level 12. However, that number is a little skewed since they have a ton of magic items due to the difference in their home game being played in Pathfinder versus how D&D 5e as a system assumes DMs will handle magic items. Plus, there are just so many players, they end up facing threats much earlier in their D&D career than a party of 4 might be able to handle at their level. That's something we'll probably talk about a lot more when we get to the next arc of the campaign, but we're not there yet. When the last episode left off, the party divided into 2 teams to attack 2 different noble houses. Scanlan is attacking the house of Duke Vedmire to cause a distraction, while the rest of the party assaults Count Tyleri, their true target. We open with Scanlan's Sidequest, possibly to keep the tension up for the most people since the rest of the party is waiting to see what happens with their quest. But honestly, probably because Scanlan just charged into a house as a Triceratops and everybody really wants to see what's going to happen. And speaking of seeing what's going to happen, you should really watch this scene play out. The timecodes are on screen, the episode is linked in the description as always. It's absolutely worth your time to watch this chaos unfold. As the episode opens, Matt gives Sam some homebrewed Triceratops stats. Then Matt describes Scanlan bursting through the doorway and entering a house with a bunch of guards ready on the stairs with crossbows. Sam jokes that he can take them, and we'll discuss that later, but I think there's a very deliberate reason Matt has these guards here, because the nobles in town are prepared for an attack. And there's a bit of foreshadowing as well for something they learned during the Tyleri mission, but we'll get there. We also see Duke Vedmire, who is a Goliath warrior, but Scanlan doesn't see any mages or anything like that, so all he's dealing with are martial enemies. Now Sam says he should leave, but he wants to have a little fun first. When else is he going to be a Triceratops? The cast weighs in with pros and cons, but Matt quickly cuts the discussion off and says they're not there. What is Scanlan doing?
How far away are those doors on the sides?
Over here, it's about 35 feet. Get that way.
I'm gonna turn right and blast through that door.
Okay.
Yeah, alright.
I don't want to get shot, so I'm just going through the door. Oh shit, it could be trapped. Oh, well, we'll find out.
We'll find out.
But of course, this is Whitestone. This is the Vox Machina campaign. No door would ever fall to something as lowly as a Triceratops. He basically gets stuck in place, he's out of movement, and the guards open fire. But he only takes 30-something damage. Not that bad, all things being equal. By the way, rules as written, Scanlan should be making concentration checks to maintain his form as a Triceratops, but don't worry, the cast gets that wrong a lot. It's very rare on Critical Role for the spellcasters who polymorph themselves into dinosaurs to ever make concentration checks. Scanlan bursts through the door into a dining room, and Sam says, I should get out of here, but it's so fun. And I'd like to quickly round up the reactions of the cast to this scene. Taliesin is on Team Stick Around. Scanlan's a Triceratops. If he picks the right strategic choke point, he could take out a ton of guards. Marisha refers to Sam as a drunk guy at a craps table, basically saying he is getting lucky, but that luck will run out at some point, and Sam might not know when to quit. Liam is just constantly encouraging Sam to get the hell out. You did your job, now run and live. Laura is just kind of along for the ride. She seems to agree that Scanlan should leave, but also that some good strategic moments might lead to some more dead guards. And Travis is 1000% hype beast, you're good, have fun, play in the space. Scanlan drops the Triceratops form, and the cast suggests maybe he can use his turn to start a fire. After all, that is what he was sent here to do. And Sam's response is this.
Can you set a blaze?
I will drop. I don't have any fire. I don't know why I was sent into this mission. I don't do fire things. I will drop my form. Is that an action or is that just...
You have a lantern.
You can drop it in a moment.
Don't you have a torch? Or a lantern?
Triceratops shrinks down to gnomish form now in this partially destroyed dining room area. What are you doing?
I'm going to hold on.
How did this plan happen then?
It's a great
We're a bunch of
Why did you
slapdicks,
say
that's
I
why.
don't have fire?
Scanlan pokes around the corner and casts Stinking Cloud on the guards and gets all of them in the radius. He gets hit by one crossbow bolt and then he ducks under the broken table and casts Dimension Door and appears on the rain-soaked roof. And about this time, he realizes he does have something to set the house on fire. He has a potion of fire breath, which gives him 3 bursts of fire breath. He leans over and sets the front of the house on fire, and then he does the same for the back. And then...
You also do see on the opposite side a hatch slam open, and you see a giant, meaty Goliath hand.
Oh shit!
Oh!
Now stepping out into the rain, you see the Goliath Duke Vedmeyer step up with his two-handed sword.
Oh shit!
It's like Duel of the Fates
Oh god!
on a burning rooftop in the rain.
This is so exciting!
Giant Goliath
Gets up there.
and a gnome that breathes fire.
Looks like a Frank Miller comic right now.
Scanlan summons Bigby's hand and tries to shove Vedmeyer off the wet roof.
I want you to go ahead and make a strength check with the hand.
Oh shit, he's strong.
The strength is +8 so add 8 to this roll.
17 plus 8.
Natural 1.
Oh my god!
Of course.
I'm gonna kill everyone in this motherfucking house!
Scanlan rushes to the hatch and breathes fire into the house, catching 2 guards in the blast.
All you gotta do is get away for this to be amazing.
Otherwise, you'll burn alive on
Otherwise
roof.
it's tragic.
So Scanlan does a trust fall off the roof and lands on Bigby's hand, and rides this glowing purple hand down and escapes. And so concludes one of the most epic sequences in the history of Critical Role. As he leaves, he sees some townsfolk attacking one of these zombie giants in the streets. This is Matt's way of signaling that the rebellion is working. Vox Machina's efforts to take down the nobles is inspiring the townsfolk. I suspect Matt is implying that even just seeing some smoke come from Vedmeyer's house is actually enough to rally the villagers to rise up to war. So then we hop over to the other house and see how that's going. Grog and Trinket burst through the front doors of Tyleri's house, and, just like at Vedmeyer's home, the guards are waiting with crossbows set to fire, and Grog gets peppered with arrows. Well, with bolts. Count Tyleri emerges and leaps onto the ceiling and skitters across it, because he's a vampire. The party didn't remember this, but when they first heard Tyleri's name from Desmond, we had learned that Silas had hung Tyleri's dead body from the Sun Tree. So if they'd remembered that detail, then when they got to Whitestone and learned that Tyleri was still running around and ruling a house that the party could attack, there could really only be one conclusion. He a vampire. Meanwhile, Vex, Vax, Percy, and Keyleth go through the back of the house, but then they wind up spending a minute wandering around inside, trying doors for a while before they can actually find the main room with the battle. Keyleth is also keeping an eye out the window for smoke from Scanlan's fire, since that was the plan, wait until they see the smoke and use that as a signal. As they enter the foyer, we get to see Percy go absolutely ham, moving his hex from one target to the next as he just kills guard after guard after guard. Now here's a great moment. This is the first time Grog has used Reckless Attack, which gives him advantage on attacks on his turn, and then all attackers get advantage on attacks against him until the start of his next turn. Which, look, when you're basically the only target and there's like 10 archers and a vampire, maybe that wasn't the wisest tactical move, but that's alright. People make suboptimal choices in D&D all the time because they want to use their new cool power, and that's not really the point I want to make. However, because it's the first time they've used the power in this game, they've read it wrong. Grog should have had advantage on all of his attacks, but they thought he only got advantage on his first attack. As the round continues and every enemy gets advantage to hit him, the cast is increasingly vocal that Travis should never use this power again. It is so clearly terrible. And as Count Tyleri goes to bite him, he rolls a natural 1. But then he gets to reroll because of advantage. And as the cast is once again decrying how terrible this ability is, Matt realizes something has to be wrong here, and he checks the rules again. He knows this ability can't just be this terrible. Something is wrong with their interpretation. And sure enough, yes, all enemies do get advantage for a full round, but Grog should have had advantage on every attack, and they'd gotten that wrong. So in the interest of fairness, and in his words, as retribution for getting it wrong, Matt decides that the natural 1 stands. Tyleri will not get advantage on this one strike. Now, I made a whole other video about how to admit your mistakes and normalizing admitting your mistakes, but something I didn't touch on is moments like this. Sometimes you need to make a trade to balance the scales. You can't really go back after several minutes and re-roll all of Grog's attacks. Too much has happened since then. But you can offer something that tries to make it as fair as possible. So in this case, Grog didn't get advantage on a strike. Tyleri doesn't get advantage on a strike. It's also the fastest, most immediate way to make things fair and then move on, which is also really handy. Anyway, Trinket gets a natural 20 and gets the how do you want to do this on Tyleri, which is a historic moment. Of course, he just turns into mist because he's a vampire. Count Tyleri, not Trinket. That would be quite a twist. Keyleth finally reaches the foyer, but now she doesn't see Tyleri and doesn't know that he's a vampire, and that's what the mist is near her friend's feet. And Marisha really doesn't want to metagame. She doesn't want to have Keyleth blast this mist with a sunbeam with no good reason, even though she as a player knows that she definitely would be able to kill that vampire. But Laura and Liam argue, no, Keyleth saw the vampires transform into mist at the sun tree's roots. Matt asks her for an intelligence roll, and she gets a 17, which that's probably good enough in 5e. I think that would be fair to make the connection. But Matt is also trying to factor in that all Keyleth sees is some mist on the floor. Again, I personally disagree with this ruling, but we have some factors to consider. One, everyone feels differently about metagaming. I made a whole other video about it. It's a very complex topic. Two, Critical Role had a metagaming problem for months, so they're particularly sensitive to metagaming. Three, they're probably still thinking of Pathfinder numbers. And four, Matt and Marisha are especially sensitive to perceptions of metagaming and fairness and bias, because Marisha is Matt's girlfriend. Now, that shouldn't matter, but sadly, a lot of people online who don't know these players personally are very quick to level accusations of unfairness anytime they perceive Marisha getting any kind of special treatment, or anytime she does something that would bother them at their own table, even if it doesn't bother Matt. So Matt is sometimes especially firm with Marisha about what is and isn't reasonable. Personally, I consider this a little bit of an overcorrection, but I'm in the future. I have the benefit of hindsight to know that this approach didn't work at all. Those people continue to harass Marisha for perceived mistakes and perceived special treatment, no matter what Matt did. But I suspect that's just one of the many reasons why Matt was more strict in moments like this, and particularly didn't feel like a 17 was enough to link this mist to vampires. Grog and Percy try to chime in and tell her that it's a vampire on her turn, but I actually do agree with Matt when he shuts that down. Grog's in a mindless rage. He wouldn't stop and explain what's happening. And Percy would only know to do that because Taliesin knows what Marisha is struggling with, so that really would be metagaming. Honestly, the solution the group will eventually land on is that players usually need to take time on their turn to say these things, and can't just chime in unprompted with relevant information on other players' turns as a form of metagaming, and generally that approach works pretty well for their game. Now, Marisha describes this as a black mist, which is just a misunderstanding. Sometimes players get a mental image in their head, and it's really hard for them to shake it. But in her mind, there's black mist, and she's not allowed to know that that's a vampire. So she argues that Keyleth would think it's probably some kind of poison that's near her friends, so she would cast Wind Wall to get it away from them. And out of character, she laments the idea that doing this might actually help the vampire escape, but she has to act honestly for what Keyleth would do. Well, then Tyleri tries to do just that. He starts to leave. But Laura pulls out some excellent rules lawyering.
Tyleri is going to make...
He's still alive.
He's a mist.
Cloud.
All right,
Fucking mist.
the mist pushes past. He's going to use action.
He pushes past the wind wall,
Oh, he's in the room with you?
but it says that figures caught in a gaseous form can't pass through the wind wall
Does it have
in the
part-
spell.
It does.
I just read it
That's my motherfucking wind wall.
because it's gonna screw up my arrow, so I was checking. But yeah, it also says he can't. Creatures in gaseous form can't pass through it.
Why would they even have a hypothetical for that?
Because this.
Because of
this.
this.
Right
Because of
here.
things right here.
This moment.
Listen, I'm not going to have the know your spells debate today. We'll talk about that another time. But on the occasion that someone in your party does cast a spell with some unforeseen consequence to the party, do what Laura did here. Make lemonade. On her next turn, Keyleth asks the party what the mist is, presumably because she saw it try to move away, and the other player characters tell her that it's a vampire. Matt still considers this thin ice regarding metagaming, but he allows it. And yeah, I can understand that. While I don't know if I 100% agree with the initial assessment that the first example counted as metagaming, I can definitely appreciate the perspective that not a ton has changed since her last turn to trigger this question being asked. I also don't think of this as the sort of thing that the cast struggles with quite as much these days. As these campaigns continue, look, I'm never going to claim that they've stopped metagaming, even sometimes metagaming in ways that specifically bother me, but this sort of situation just doesn't come up that often anymore. More likely, if a character enters a room, the player will probably lean into the fact that their character is working with faulty information. But again, styles change and situations are different. I can imagine it was especially frustrating for Marisha to try not to metagame when she definitively knew that she has a vampire-killing spell that works way better than anything the rest of the party has. Anyway, she decides to spend her bonus action to justify asking what the mist is, and that settles the issue. Once again, sometimes the best solution to make everyone feel better is to offer a trade that equalizes things, like spending one of your resources, like a bonus action. Keyleth blasts Tyleri with a sunbeam spell and obliterates him. A few of the guards try to get away, but Vox Machina can't let any survivors escape, so Grog smashes one of them, Vex electrocutes another, and Keyleth vaporizes the last with her still active sunbeam. They interrogate the last guard, but he doesn't know anything they don't know. Except that he mentions that an informant gave this house the heads up about the attack. That seems relevant. Also, it seems he was one of the folks who hung the bodies from the sun tree, so Vax slits his throat. Meanwhile, Vex pins Percy to the wall and asks if he's okay.
Are you alright?
I think so.
Look me in the eye, Percy.
I feel cruel, but in control. This is controllable at the moment.
Vex tries to insight check him. I forgot that the cast rolls insight on Percy in every episode of the Briarwood arc, but once again, he's hard to read. Keyleth finally sees Scanlan's smoke rising and uses Skyrite to reshape the smoke into the Derolo crest.
Oh, something's happening! Something's happening in the sky!
That's me.
I think it's a magic wielder of some sort. Something. I must flee.
They search the house and find a torture room, a coffin in the basement, and no bed in the master bedroom. That's a nice detail. And notes on Tyleri's desk about residuum, a material inherent in the white rocks of Whitestone. Residuum is something I first encountered in the official books for 4th edition D&D. You got it when you melted down magic items in order to make new magic items, in case the DM gave you a magic item you didn't want. In Critical Role, residuum isn't inherently magical, but it can be used to make the process of enchanting a lot easier and faster. They burn the house, and the nearby townsfolk watch and smile, and pick up arms to fight the undead giants stomping around town. The party sneaks back to the alcove, the magic shop they visited in the last episode, and Jordana hides them. Most of the party wants to take a long rest, but Keyleth points out that they just rallied the people to fight. The townsfolk took that cue, and they're out there fighting now. If Vox Machina sits out this fight, a lot of people are going to die, and that will be on them. Unfortunately, there's no way to spread the word quickly for everyone to just chill, wait, and attack tomorrow. Vox Machina agrees to take a short rest and then get back out there to at least help take down the zombie giants. Remembering at last that Tyleri was hung from the sun tree, they decide to head there first to start at the tree. They still suspect maybe the tree is being used to make more vampires, and they did see 8 bodies on that tree not that long ago, so they should probably go check on that. On the way there, they see a few dead zombie giants, more dead, that have been brought down by civilians, although the civilians suffered some casualties as well. When they get to the tree, they find a small militia trying to take down another giant. And they also notice that the 8 bodies hanging from the tree are gone. It seems someone cut those bodies down. And then a shape begins to emerge from the rainy streets. An army of 100 skeletal, armored warriors. The servants of Delilah Briarwood. Keyleth climbs the sun tree and hits the army with a big spell to try to take them out. She casts an ice storm and obliterates a few dozen of them. They're just skeletons after all. But this army has the numbers, so Vox Machina retreats, pursued by a zombie giant and an army of skeletons. They fire daggers and spells and arrows and bullets, and they manage to bring down the giant, but the skeletons swarm through the city. And that's the end of the episode, with most of the cast extremely tapped on resources, but with no long rest in sight. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back in 2 weeks to discuss episode 32, Against the Tide of Bone. Some great moments in this episode, and a very useful lesson that we can learn for our own games. Some of you can probably already guess what that lesson will be. In the meantime, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell. I have new videos coming out every Monday and every Thursday, and the sooner you watch a video, the better that video does, and the more the channel grows. If you can support me financially, and no pressure if you can't, but if you can, check out my Patreon. That really means a whole lot to me. I would also love to have you join my Discord server, especially if you're still relatively new to Critical Role. There are awesome threads and servers where people just share their progress and discuss episodes. It's really fun to be a part of a community that welcomes you into the show that way. You can also follow me on Twitch to watch my live streams, and make sure to sign up for my newsletter for other updates. And please check out my other videos, including this one about why some people consider dinosaurs in D&D to be out of genre. Until next time, play fair and have fun.